when something restricts your fundamental expression, when something blocks the flow of your release of energy and your communication of who you are, your identity, your truth, which is all that you hold dear, all that you believe in, all that you appreciate, and the components of experiences and information that you feel define you. How can we not be authentically angry? How can we not be charged? How can we not be given fuel to try and burn through that which is a barrier? These are all images that reflect emotional reactions. The feeling of having your truth, as it were, stifled is something that causes a lot of throwback. And the struggle can come in terms of how we then utilize this energy and this force and impulse to resist these different forms of oppression and speak out against them and speak up for ourselves and use and channel that anger or pain to push through and to still make the effort to communicate and still make the effort to express, because it is important to us, because if we don't, we cease to exist. At a fundamental core level, there's something within us that feels as though it dies. It's an aspect of the life force that is not nourished. So there are several strands to this, because when we make the effort, we can always find spaces to express. We can always make an effort to find somewhere in nature or find a neutral space, a space of quiet, a space that is free. It's not owned by anyone or regulated or policed. We can come into the space and we can release this energetic charge and express as we need to. And we don't feel that there's any social ramification. And that is very, very nourishing and very healing, to realize that we have opportunities to do that, and that if they're not easily accessible because of where we live, that actually we need to actively create them within our community spaces, or find ways, means and resources to tap into more natural environments so that we can actually feel held by nature and be elemental. We are elemental in our expression. There's no doubt about that. But then the other side of this is that we are social animals and that we respond well to feedback, and we need some feedback. We need to feel that we're heard and recognized and understood by others. It's psychologically and emotionally. It would be unfair to say that opinions and acknowledgement from friends and family are not important to us, because we may hold very, very different viewpoints and truths within us to those that we interact with. But thinking of those that we're really close to, or having a good friend who's, we use the phrase on the same wavelength, or somebody that's like coherent, somebody that has a vibrational quality that makes you feel attracted to them. We are nourished and rewarded often in those interactions because we are able to find spaces of authenticity to express fundamentally who we are, but that is received and it's acknowledged, and it is, if they are a good friend, it's celebrated. And hopefully that's a reciprocal, balanced relationship where we offer that space for the other individual too. But then when we move away from that immediate safety net and consider all of the different people and places and environments that we interact with, and all of the potential challenges that we face on a daily basis, which on some level fundamentally comes down to, can I express myself fully in the space that I'm in? Like in this moment in time, if I say what I really feel and think, am I going to get shut down? Will I be rejected? Will this start an argument? Am I going to offend someone? These aspects then all become components that weigh heavily on us and contribute to a weight in considering self-censorship as an option. And self-censorship can look like diluting the strength of what we say, reframing it so that it has less clarity in that it could be interpreted in one way or the other, but making it more vague or ambiguous. Using prepositions rather than being direct, like perhaps, maybe, it might be the case, which are padding in a way for around the words that we really want to say. Or just not even allowing ourselves to have those dialogues and conversations, particularly ones that we know are going to be difficult. And we need to have those difficult conversations, because if we don't have them with other people, unless we're in a really, really active space in terms of being very conscious that, okay, this is not the right moment or time to share something here, and you feel that strongly, and that is a form of truthful recognition as well about where to share the expression. You can take that energy and move it into a space of self-dialogue with journaling, or just self-talk, taking yourself away from a situation and having a dialogue with yourself. But from my experience, those moments where you actually have the capacity and the strength to do that are not often met in immediacy. If you are already in a space with dialogue with someone and you feel called to share and respond in an emotional way, it's very hard to pull yourself from dialogue and take that energy and sit with yourself in that kind of very conscious communicative space where you're really parenting yourself and self-soothing. That is something that takes cultivation and practice and training, and even with that being said, it's still a difficult thing to do, because we fundamentally, on an animal level, are still craving this level of feedback and response and interaction that we get from dialoguing and sharing with another individual, even and especially in moments where we are sharing emotions of volatility, or talking about difficult things, because we still want to tap into and connect. And something fundamental about feeling in moments that our expression is being restricted comes back to this very, very root emotion around safety. And if we feel that we are being shut down by somebody else, it can really trigger lots of different emotions around that, the injustice, or the feeling of having someone shut you out, shut you down, suppress you. All of these things then begin to work into effectively a power balance dynamic where you have those in a space that are dialoguing with each other, and when one person or more doesn't feel safe, the quality of the dialogue changes, and if there's not balance and equality within that space to freely share emotions and freely talk about things that are difficult and are triggering, then the energy of this conversation loop can get stuck. We're not actually moving forward in our dialogues. We are not able to push to new dimensions and spaces because some point along the line there is this barrier which impedes or restricts further movement, and there's lots of different ways that can manifest, but it is important to note that in these dialogue dynamics, it's all very well having a policy of openness and sharing, but there also needs to be platforms for balance and equality to be maintained. So this is why, in light of conflict resolution kind of scenarios, there's often a facilitator or someone there who is acting as a mediator between two parties to be that kind of grounded energy in between, and not to police the dialogue, but just to ensure and maintain that there is a quality of mutual respect and listening, first and foremost, and that there's enough space for each person to express as they feel. But then when one person's dialoguing, that's their time and there are no interruptions, and equally that space is given to the other person as well. So if we try and take on board some of these skills and conceptualizations of dialoguing with consciousness, with kindness, with mutual respect, there's a lot of information to take on board, and there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we can try and infuse into our personal dialogues. But it's not easy. If we are in a space of two people sharing, and you are holding space and holding this role of facilitating in a way, but you also require a space in which you need to express authentically your anger or your grief or upset about something. This duality between these two roles, if you like, of the expressor and then the space holder, they kind of conflict with each other a little bit. There are times where I have been in communication with someone and I've been able to kind of hold almost like a stoic quality of talking about a subject in a way that feels slightly detached. It's coming then more into like a rational space of like accounting and recording emotions and crafting a story out of them, but not charging the emotions. And certainly that is a tool that can be effective as far as decompartmentalizing things and trying to find a timeline or sequence of events in order to convey information. But you have to ask yourself, does putting myself in that role really give myself authentic space to express the rawness and allow those emotions to come through, to be seen, felt, heard and acknowledged? So that's what I want to come back to on that point, is that we still crave being seen, even in vulnerable space. We still want to show and share emotion with those we feel might have the capacity to sympathise, or at least begin to understand the hurt that they might have caused us, or the root of some disagreement, through being able to fearlessly let go and roar a little bit or do what we need to do. So there's that one channel or side of things as far as our demands in some way to be held and recognized, and then there's the other side of that reality, which is that those conversations and dialogues don't always happen in the way that we would like them to. It's not always possible to enter into a space where a listener can or has the capacity to take on board what's being said, especially if those emotions are highly charged, which comes back to this feeling of how do we engender in culture a feeling of safe space within our conversation dynamics, and how do we bring about equality to those spaces for both people, which is very, very challenging. So we can come to a space with what I would call innocent intent, that our intention in sharing our truth or our story in that moment it does not carry an agenda with it. It's about a simple, I need to be heard, I need to be acknowledged, I need to express these difficult emotions, and I need you to hear them. And then there is the quality of intention when you're still charged, I would say, with emotions, to drive something other than just the need to express, that there's a specific outcome that you are looking for or hoping for beyond just the space to express, that outcome might seem reasonable. It might seem like, I need to get this off my chest and you need to listen to me, and so that we can sort this out, so that everything can go back to like a peaceful resolution. Like on a surface level, that sounds like it might be okay, but if we dig a little deeper into the intention behind that, it's actually not really allowing a balanced or equal framework or space for things to evolve naturally in the way that they should progress, through a kind of a shared experience of open expression. And there are lots of different reasons that can happen, and one of the most obvious ones I can think of, based on my own experience, is not having that recognition of boundaries as far as space and time goes. Often after there's been a highly emotional kind of dialogue with someone, it's kind of natural, as there's been that energy build-up and kind of explosion, if you like, to withdraw from that space and to give adequate time for reflection and to calm down and to kind of perhaps retrace your steps and think about, okay, how can we move forward from here if a kind of peaceful resolution is what you're hoping for. And oftentimes we can think that we are ready to enter into a dialogue space, and it might not be the right time. We might be simply too angry, too upset, to be fully lucid in how we can have a progressive dialogue with someone. And I think that is also okay. That's in some way acknowledging and giving space for your truth to evolve as it needs to, and it's something that you would recognize only by the strength of feeling and the impact that the emotions are still having on you, which is when it can be useful to find other spaces, neutral spaces, where you can process and express those emotions in the way that they need to be at that moment, because that anger might be meant for the person that you feel has upset you, but it might not. And if we come into a deeper space of listening with ourselves and really fundamentally ask ourselves, if I were to be on the receiving end of that energy and that emotion, how would that make me feel? And that can be a very interesting question to explore and to dialogue with yourself, in helping you, I suppose, make that decision about, is now the right time? Do I have the capacity to express in a way that is progressive? Do they have the capacity to receive? So it feels that there could be contradictions here. But what I want to highlight is that there are different qualities of and shades of all of these different opportunities that we have for dialogue, and to notice and be mindful of the differences between shutting down and self-suppressing for fear of someone's reaction, or antagonizing them or upsetting them, which is not healthy or good for us. And then also being caring fully about the moments that we choose to engage with these challenging dialogues, to ensure that it's with the best interest and it's for the right reasons. If someone's upset us and we go in all guns blazing, but our intention behind expressing the truth in that anger is to ridicule, demean, or subjugate someone, is that really the best use of that energy? Is that really the most effective and healing means of expression? Or could that energy be channeled into something creative, and perhaps that the space given for the rawness to come through in that moment, when you know your intention is clouded by emotions that are still evolving in as far as you understand them. Until there's that lucidity there, do you have practices and tools and resources that you can use to gather that energy together, so that your continued or next dialogue actually has the potential to be infused with a healing quality? Because fundamentally we're all seeking that on some level: conflict resolution, healing wounds, and coming back into relationships of balance and equality with each other. So just a few things that are on my mind that I wanted to share with you, and in these times, feels very relevant and poignant to touch on them. There's lots of difficult, challenging stuff going on right now. Lots of feeling of injustice and rising into spaces of hold on a second, where is my voice in all of this? What about my experiences and my stories and my history, and that kind of feeling of this needs to come out and to be heard and felt and acknowledged. So yeah, first and foremost, trying to cultivate that clear channel for yourself, so that we're not limiting or restricting that energy that is asking to flow through us. But then also equally being mindful of the moments in time, the places and the environments that we share that with, and it's a fine balance between catharsis and re-traumatization, I would say. So yeah, we begin in a deep space of listening and honouring the self as much as we possibly can, and through cultivating this for ourselves, hopefully we can bring this into our dialogues with others as well.